Hello, this is Jamie Makerich. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to be making 3 cards using Friends Are Like Seashells. I'm going to make a simple stamper card, a casual stamper card, and an avid stamper card. And I'm just going to be using the Friends Are Like Seashells, Memento Tuxedo Black, Pool Party, Crumb Cake. For the avid card, I'm bringing in light crumb cake and dark petal pink and the wink of Stella. And I'm also going to be using the dies that coordinate with it, the seaside seashells dies. Okay, for the avid one. So let's get started here. This is my first card. It is a simple stamping card, SIP card, stamp, ink and paper. I did add a little ribbon on there. It's not a mandatory thing, it's optional. But let's get started and show you what we need to make this first card. Okay, I have a card base, which is 5.5 by 8.5. I've scored it and folded it at 4 1/4 of a piece of crumb cake, which is 4 1/4 by 5.5. It's the same size as the front of the card. Now you could just use a crumb cake card base. That would work as well. I have a piece of Designer Series paper. This is the In Good Taste Designer Series paper. It's 5 inches by 2 inches. Then I have a scrap of Pool Party, which is a little less than 1/2 inch. It's just a scrap. Okay, let's get started. I turn this way, it just makes it easier for me. Excuse me. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in this stamp here with the little spots. I don't know if you can see it. Let me show you on the case. This one. And I'm going to use crumb cake ink. So it's tone on tone. And I'm just going to stamp some of this all across the background. So I'm going to ink it, stamp it, and then move and stamp a couple times. And turn it, move it, stamp it a couple times. I just want a little bit of color variation on the back of this, on this card. Just do it all over a little bit. I think my crumb cake needs re-inked, but I didn't want to do it until I was done with this project because I didn't want it to get too dark on here. Turning it this way. Okay, that's good. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for this part. Okay, now I can adhere this to the front of my card, and I'm just going to use wet glue. Of course, I should have started it before I got on. There we go. Move this over here. Not going across screen. Okay, mount that to the front of the card. There's no right or wrong, up or down, whichever one you prefer to be the top. Okay, now I'm going to bring in this piece. Now I've mounted 2 stamps on one block. Basically, I think they're clean. Let me make sure they're clean and I'll show you how I did it. They were on here just because when I just laid them out. This one goes here. This one's going to go here. I want to make sure there's enough room for that sand dollar in the middle. Okay. And they need to fit on the block, so let's scooch them together just a little bit so they fit on my block. There's still room for this. Okay, perfect. So then I'm going to put my block down and pick them both up. Okay, now I'm going to stamp those with Memento Tuxedo black ink. These are clear stamps, so I do recommend having some sort of foam underneath. Center it up on there and stamp. Don't want to press too hard because you don't want to squish the image. Perfect. Now I'm going to bring in the sand dollar. Stamp that here in this section. Center it between those other two. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to bring in my sentiment. Get the stamping done, and then we'll put the card together. On my strip, stamp the sentiment, wishing you the very best. Perfect. Okay, now I need to bring in my scissors. So I need to trim this just a little bit. Ooh, I'll cover the sink so I don't make a mess. Okay, so I'm going to trim this about a 1/4 inch past where the sentiment is. Same here. Okay, that's good. Alright, so now I'll bring this in. Put some wet glue on it. Line it up. It's about a 1/2 inch from the edge. Make sure the spacing at the top and the bottom is the same or similar. And I prefer it to be larger at the bottom than the top. It's an art thing. They always mat so that the bottom is a little larger. It just looks better. Now we're going to adhere this down here. Move it over a little bit. Okay, then we're going to just bring in a knot on a glue dot. Going to roll up that glue dot. Put it behind our knot. Stick it right here on this corner. There we go. There's card number 1. Okay. Card number 2 is this card here. I've added some dimension. I've added some layers. I've moved the sentiment up a little bit. Colored the shells in with Wink Stella. And I added a second color to the background. So I have my card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. I have a piece of pull party, which is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I have a piece of crumb cake, which is 4 by 5 1/4. I have a piece of pool party, which is 2 1/4 by 4 3/4, and a piece of the In Good Taste Designer Series paper, which is 2 by 4 1/2. Then that same strip of, this one's a little bit smaller even, of the pool party. Okay. Excuse me just a minute. Sorry, I had to blow my nose. My lemon tree is blooming and makes my nose stuff up. Okay, so let's start the same way we did. I'm going to start by stamping this background. So we're going to take the crumb cake. We're going to stamp the background the same way we did. Okay, now I'm going to wash that stamp. And I'm going to go into, oops, I'll close my hair in the stamp pad, the pool party. I'm going to add some pool party. Now I don't need quite as much the pool party. I'm just going to stamp a few here and there. Just add a little bit of something else. Oh, I just got an edge there. Well, let's do that. All right. Okay, let's mount this to our pool party piece. And there's just a 1/16 of an inch border because it's a 1/4 of an inch smaller than this piece. This will get mounted right to the front of our card base. And you would take your time, you wouldn't be rushing like I am. I feel like I'm rushing because I'm trying to get 3 cards done in less than a decent amount of time, so you don't have to be bored. Okay, and then I'm going to stamp this piece the same way I did this one, except this is a little bit of a smaller piece. So make sure these still fit on there. They should, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ink these up, and I ink up one, and I turn it, and I ink up the other. That's the easiest way to do it. And then I go ahead and stamp this. Okay, then I'm going to bring in my sand dollar. Stamp that in the center here. Okay, and bring in this piece. Stamp our sentiment. Oop, I've smeared it. Try that again. Much better. Okay. Cover up my ink. Now I'm going to bring in Wink of Stella. And I'm going to add some Wink of Stella to the top of these shells. This one's pretty dry, It's the end of the run almost for this Wink of Stella. There it comes. Just a little bit on each of them. Just give them a little bit of something to stand out a little bit from the paper. You don't want to saturate it too much because this is just thin paper, and you will notice it gives it a little bit of a bubble. Alright, now we're going to mount this to our pool party layer. This one's got a 1/8 of an inch border because it's a 1/4 inch larger, the pool party, than the DSP. Okay, bring in my snips, and I'm going to snip this down. Okay, now I want dimensionals on the back of this. I know I probably use more than I need, but I like it to hold up. I don't like it when they fall apart and get saggy. Alright, that's going to go in the same position as, oops, that one doesn't want to stick. Get another dimensional. There we go. Same place over here. It's just going to have a more even spacing because it's a smaller strip. Then I'm going to bring this in, and on this side over here I'm going to put it one dimensional. These are almost too big for these dimensionals. I might need to bring in the little ones. And at this end I need 2 because this layer's already popped up once. So I need to stack them on top of each other. Take the backs off. This particular page of dimensionals isn't cooperating very well. Okay, now instead of down here, you could put it down here like I did on the first one, but I wanted it up here, so I'm going to put it right there. Okay, now I'm bringing in some holiday rhinestones. I'm going to add one of these green, light green ones to each end of this sentiment band strip. And then I'm going to use the braided linen trim. I'm going to make a knot like I did on the first one. Probably have one somewhere, but I literally just made a knot. Trimmed it. Then I frayed it so that it looked like old rope. Okay, then we got the glue dots. Again, I'm going to roll up that glue dot. cut down the paper and add my bow on top. So that's card number 2. Okay. Card number 3 is this card. Now I've added a die cut. I don't know if you can see it. And I've added tasteful textile embossing folder. And a fancy ribbon. And a few more rhinestones. You see the dimension there? Okay. So I have my card base. 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. I have my pool party piece. They're the same dimensions as the previous card, so it's 5 3/8 by 4 1/8, a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of crumb cake, my 2 1/4 by 4 3/4 inch piece of pool party, 2 by 4 inch piece of In Good Taste Designer Series paper, my strip of pool party, and then another scratch piece of the Designer Series paper to stamp and die cut the sand dollar out of. Okay, so let's start the same way. Now since this has the pool party on it last, I'm going to use the pool party first. This saves cleaning it one step. I'm just stamping it. It's not going to show quite as much because you are going to emboss it. Okay, so that's it for the pool party ink. And bring in my cleaner. Probably should have been on a smaller block. Crumb cake. Add the crumb cake. I think I need to re-ink this for sure. Okay, now I'm going to run that through this embossing folder, and I will be right back. Okay, can you see the texture on there? Alright, so now let's stamp the rest of these. Ink up one side of the shell, the other side. Stamp this onto this piece here. Okay, then I'm going to stamp my sand dollar on this piece. It's just a scrap piece. Just needs to be large enough for your sand dollar. Okay, I'm going to go cut that out with the matching die. Well, let me stamp my sentiment first. Where'd my sentiment strip go? So I can get this ink off my table. Perfect, okay. I can close this ink up. Alright, now matching die for this right here. I'm going to go run that through my machine and I will be right back. Lines up like that. Okay, got that. Let's put this die away so I don't lose it. Alright, so now I'm going to come in with dark petal pink and light crumb cake. And I'm going to color this entire shell with the petal pink. I'm not coloring in those because those would be holes. Probably would have been easier to color it before I cut it out. Because then I would have had something to hold on to. Okay. And then I came in with the light crumb cake. And I added some into here. Just a little bit around the edge, around where the, like that. Not a lot. Okay. And I came in with my stella. And I colored in the shells, all three of them, with the stella. These two. Okay, now we can assemble this card. I'm going to put an aid single dimensional on the back of this. You'll see it's curled a little bit from coloring it because it's just designer series paper. And I'm going to try and encourage that curl because that gives it that sand dollar shape. See that? Okay. Alright, so let's glue this onto here. That's again that 1/4 inch smaller, so it's going to have an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of this. And while I have it, let's go ahead and trim this. I want this end a little bit longer, so I'm going to tie a ribbon on it. And I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of it. Again, this end gets 2. Okay. This piece gets glued onto this piece. Make sure you have the spotted side up, unless you prefer not to. Just adds a little bit more texture, and this is just going to have a 1/16 of an inch because it's just an 1/8 of an inch smaller. This will get mounted to the front of our card. Alright, this piece we can take those backs off of now. We'll figure it out. I think I put the dimensional a little too close to the edge. Might have to move that one dimensional. Did I put that one already? I think I did. Okay. So let's put this in the same place as the last one. Okay. The reason I only put the one dimensional in the center is so I can tuck this underneath it easily. Go ahead and put this on. Okay, yeah, I need to move this dimensional. See if I can move it. I need to not put it on the end because I'm going to put the ribbon there. So I'm going to take a piece of this ribbon. About 6 inches maybe. I'm going to wrap it around this end here, tie it in a knot. Okay, then I'm going to pull this ends apart, like that. Like really, make it really loose. And actually fray the end here. Okay, take those backs off. Okay, and I'm going to make sure this tucks underneath my sand dollar a little bit. Oh, it's already set itself down. Come on. Not yet. Like that. Okay, now I'm going to bring in those glue dots. And I want this end to curl, so I'm going to loop it like this. I'll put a glue dot here. I'm going to open this ribbon back up because it closed itself up. And I'm going to stick it on that glue dot. That's going to give it that shape. And this one probably could just be free. But I'm going to add a glue dot. Do we want it to go this way? Let's do it this way this time. Just put that glue dot down. Make sure there's no glue exposed on the outside edge. The ribbon's covering it all. Okay, and then we can come in with those rhinestones. This pack is almost gone, so I'm going to put one here. Oops, I just knocked it. I want a large one. Down here. Middle one for close next to it. I don't want you on there. Okay, and then another small one here, and another small one up there at the top. There we go. There's a card we just made together. Here's the one I did previous. That's the Avid card. Here's the one we did together. Here's the one I did previous of the casual card. And here's the one we did together, and the one I did previous of the hashtag simple stamping card. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.